Hello YouTube fans, hope you're all doing well. I'm here again to talk about, well, what else? Mall Tour 2016, and I felt like having just gone on my record-setting 7th Mall Tour of the year, now would be a good time to kind of take a moment and enjoy this checkpoint for what it is. Now, the Mall Tour is not over. In fact, there's probably a long way to go, but it has been a wild ride already. How wild? Well, I've already gone further than I've ever gone when I went to Pennsylvania back in April, and since then I've hit a variety of malls across Massachusetts, New York, and yes, even Connecticut. So it has been an incredible journey so far, and from the start I had a very ambitious kickoff with the 3 mall tour stop in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Now, part of that, and in fact more of that, was about seeing Shay Goodbye, my #1 fan who I had known of and had been acquainted with over the past 10 years, but had never actually met in person. So when, opportunity hands you a moment like that, or an opportunity to go to Pennsylvania and to see some malls in that area, of course you take it. And I was lucky enough to take that trip, and yes, it was a very long trip, but I got to meet my friend, and I also got to go to a few malls to kick off the mall tour. Now, having said that, I started the mall tour with the mall at Steamtown in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and as Shay Goodbye will tell you, it's not a great mall, but there was something about it, and I find that with certain malls in Connecticut and even the Auburn Mall, which I went to earlier in this mall tour, there were certain things about the mall at Steamtown that I liked. Like, it looked like it had a lot of potential to be a successful shopping mall, and from what I understand, it was a successful shopping mall about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's just kind of fallen on hard times. The mall at Steamtown didn't have too many stores. A lot of the things it had seemed outdated. The elevators were very 90s. The look of the mall was very 90s, but that's kind of why I liked it. And I really liked the food court. Well, not the actual food court, because there wasn't that much in there, but just the look of it. It was like the Steam Cafe or something. And going outside onto the train tracks, that was a really nice touch that I feel like only that mall could do. I'm sure there are other malls at train stations, but like, that mall had a personality to it. You could tell, and it had a Bosgoff's, which right there makes it pretty good. Admittedly, so did a lot of the things in Pennsylvania, but, going to Pennsylvania was definitely an experience, seeing some new malls and seeing how, it's done a couple states over. Now, it's not, tremendously far. It was about a 3-hour drive, but, I was leaving New England, but not by much. So that was a great trip. I talked about Auburn briefly. That was another really fun day, but again, not necessarily for the mall itself. I just kind of had fun with Frankie and even just kind of goofing on the malls, because that's part of it. Not every mall you go to is going to be this amazing mall, or it's going to be, there's kind of a same old vibe to the mall tour, but that's not really a bad thing. Like, I actually kind of enjoy it, especially when I get to revisit malls that I've been to before, and I got to do that recently with the Emerald Square Mall in North Attleboro. It's kind of like there's a familiarity, but it's good, because I only do these once a year, if that. As you remember, there was a 5-year hiatus between mall tours from 2010 to last year. And really, what I wanted to get down to is how successful the mall tour has been over the past 2 years. And that, to me, kind of is, I don't want to say it's shocking, but it is a little surprising. When I started the mall tour, when I brought it back in 2015, I really didn't know what to expect. Because a lot of times, it happens in life, it happens to everybody. You come up with an idea and you're really enthusiastic about it, and then you get into it for a little while, and then you kind of get tired of it and you kind of put it away. And it was kind of that thing where the first mall tour I went on last year to West Farms Mall was really fun, kind of reminded me why I like to do this in the first place. I had Kat, Kurt, and Kristen. It's a lot of K sounds. I had those 3 on that mall tour at West Farms. We checked out the Lego store, we checked out the Apple store, we checked out a lot of things that you can't necessarily check out here in this area of Connecticut. And that was a really nice mall. I'm hoping to go back to that mall for this year's mall tour. But just going off of that, when I started that mall tour in 2015, when I resurrected the idea, I didn't know if it would last, Then I went to see Pixels in Providence. Now I'm getting into last year's mall tour. But the point is, the mall tour did last last year to the point where I actually added a stop in Holyoke, Massachusetts. That wasn't supposed to be a stop. That was the 6th stop of what was supposed to be a 5-stop mall tour. So I decided that this year I wasn't going to plan necessarily a number. I wasn't going to say I'm going to go to 5 malls or 10 malls or whatever. I might go to a lot more malls, I might only go to a couple more malls. But either way, this mall tour has already exceeded all expectations. And that's another thing, is I never know how things are going to go when I decide to do an idea again. Even if you look at Mall Tour 2010, which is a great example. Mall Tour 2009 was fun. It had some fun moments in it. It was my first time doing it. I went to Buckland Hills, which wasn't necessarily a new mall for me, but it's one I don't go to often. I went to Providence Place that year. I went to Emerald Square, funny enough, and I went to Meriden Square. I went to Westfield Mall in Meriden. So I went to those 4 malls, and 2010, I was all ramped up to do it again. And I started by going to Emerald Square Mall in 2010. I did it again. It was fun. Then I went to West Farms Mall for the first time, and then I kind of stopped. And I'm not really sure why, but Mall Tour 2010 was only those 2 stops. I don't know if I couldn't find the people to do it. There wasn't time to do it. In fact, I think it was more the people. And then from 2011 on, I just kind of didn't do it. Like, I still went to malls once in a while, but I never really made a big thing of it. And then last year, for whatever reason, I decided to try it again. And this year, I wanted to go big with this one. Because if this is my last mall tour for a while, and I don't know, but if it is, I want it to be memorable. And I want Mall Tour 2016 to be the one that I look back on and say, that was the success. That was how how the whole concept was supposed to go. In 2009, it was a good attempt. 2010, it kind of fizzled out. Even last year was really good, but there was some stuff to be improved on. And this year, the spirit of the mall tour is there. And it took a long time to get to that. But just the idea of exploring these new malls, and 6 out of the 7 malls I've been to this point are new to me. The 3 malls in Pennsylvania I'd obviously never been to. The Auburn Mall I'd never been to. In Palisades, I'll get to that in a second. Palisades Mall in New York I'd never been to. As well as the Westfield Trumbull Mall, which is in Connecticut. There are actually a good number of shopping malls in Connecticut, many of them of a high quality. They're just very hard to find. They're all in different corners of the state. And it's not a very big state, so it's about an hour and a half drive, but still, that's a long way to go for a shopping mall. And I do give credit, as always, like I do with any production I do, I give credit to my friends for going along with these, going on the long car rides, getting lost with me, and staying at the malls, sometimes for a very long time. I really do appreciate that time, and I hope that it was as fun for them as it was for me, and hopefully that you got a good kick out of it as well, viewing the videos. But going back to some of the highlights of this mall tour, of course I mentioned going to Pennsylvania. Now, I also mentioned briefly Palisades Mall. Palisades Mall in New York. And this was another interesting opportunity. I wouldn't have known about this mall, much like I wouldn't have known about the mall in Steamtown. I wouldn't have known about Palisades Mall if not for my good friend Trevor. Now, Trevor and I go way back. He's actually someone I went to high school with back in, 2004 and 2006. And we stayed in touch. My really good friends, the one thing I love about them the most is that they stay in touch. I have a lot of friends that are good people, but we just lose touch. It just happens. But, people like Trevor, you just have a feeling he's always going to stick around in some regard. And sure enough, I mentioned to him, hey, I'd like to see you sometime. I'm doing this mall tour. And he said, hey, there's a really big mall about 2 hours from you. I'm like, oh, where is it? He's like, West Nyack, New York. So sure enough, I look it up. Palisades Park Mall in New York, not New York City, but I don't know, some rural area of New York, but it's huge. It's the 8th biggest mall in Connecticut, at least according to Wikipedia. I looked it up, and so yeah, that was a ginormous mall. Frankie went with me on that one as well. Frankie, Trevor, and I going through this big mall. The elevators were wicked fast, 4 floors, just everything you could imagine. Must have been 20-something restaurants there. All these laser tag places, rock climbing, bowling, ice rink, go-karts, anything you can do at any other recreational place you could do here, except for a roller coaster. I guess there was one a long time ago, but it's not there anymore, obviously. And I'm just so flabbergasted by that. That's the kind of mall that I want to go to. At the same time, I'm okay with not going to it as much. It's kind of a treat. Kind of like Providence Place is on a different scale as well. That's a big mall. But not every mall is going to be that. You're going to have an Auburn Mall. And the Auburn Mall was a 1-floor kind of really tight, cramped mall. I mean, it was good for what it was. It had a lot of the stores I liked in it. Frankie and I got a kick out of going through Sears. So, I mean, there was a lot to like there, but it was a very small mall. And, that gets me back to the whole idea of the mall tour, not knowing what you're going to get. And that's what makes it so much fun. Going to Westfield Trumbull was a great experience because going into that mall, I thought one thing, and then I quickly learned another. It was a very unique mall. I almost feel like they built it and then added on and then added on, because it seemed like three different styles of mall. At one point, it seemed kind of like Auburn, where it was just kind of a big hallway going down. But then there were branching pathways, and I found that really interesting, because a lot of malls I go to, even if they're bigger, they go down a certain pathway, and you just kind of follow it. This mall actually had two different ways to go, where if you went one way, you go to one set of stores, the other way, you go to another set of stores. Now, I'm sure it converged at some point, but that was a very well-designed mall, Westfield Trumbull, because I felt like there was never really a dead end. Like, I felt like I was always looking at something new. I would turn around and there was somewhere to go. Like, it was never like, I had to turn back. I'm sure it probably was. It was just an architectural thing. It was really well done. And then, of course, Emerald Square, which I went to most recently, just a few days ago, actually. Emerald Square Mall has always been one of my favorites. There's a long story for how I first discovered that mall. I'm not going to get into it. It was back in 2005, but again, I'm getting off topic here. But the mall tour has always had a place for Emerald Square Mall. I don't know why. It's just every single mall tour I've managed to get down to North Attleboro, Massachusetts. And it's always been a lot of fun. And this time was no different. I really do love that mall. I'm thinking about going there during Christmas just to see what it looks like then. And that's another thing. There's a lot of stuff, obviously, going on from now until the end of the year. And mall tour is going to stay prevalent. That's one thing I have to say is, my YouTube channel has a wide variety of videos. I've got literally everything from little 2-minute rants about me complaining about something, in my room. I go from that to giant 3-hour productions. That's not an exaggeration. I've got, blockbusted movies. I've got Crash Daniels movies, all these different things I've worked on when I was younger, a couple years ago. And the one thing that all those videos have in common is that they get, no views. And I don't mind if, the 2-minute video in my room doesn't get that many views. I just kind of put that on there to put it on there. But it is a little disheartening, very disheartening, when you work on something for months just to get a few views on it. So, the mall tour videos are an interesting thing, because they're the middle ground. They're kind of a bigger production, but not really. It only takes me a couple days to edit a mall tour video, and it's fun to do it. Not that it wasn't fun to edit the other ones, but it is kind of a quick edit, except for the Palisades Mall. That took forever, but most of the mall tour videos are kind of around the 10-minute range, and they're fun. They're fun to edit, they're fun to watch, and that's good. What's even better is that they get a lot of views. To this point, almost every mall tour video I've put on gets at least a few hundred views, which is a far cry from anything else I do. And some of them have over 1,000, close to 2,000 views, which again, isn't much in the grand scheme of things, but for my channel, it means I reached a few people. And, the fact that I know I can do that I can enjoy myself, make a good video, and still get views on it, that's a win-win-win. That's excellent. And I hope that continues as I go to some other malls. Some will be more well-known, some might be a little more obscure, but again, that's what I like. And I've loved the mall tour for the past few years because of that, and this year's mall tour has been the best ever. 7 malls already, and we're not even, we're halfway into the summer now, and I've gone to 7 malls. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what 2016 has in store as it pertains to the mall tour. I thank Frankie, Kat, Trevor, and yes, Say Goodbye, and others for attending these mall tours and for continuing to make this a fantastic experience. I hope to see more of you guys in the future and more mall tours to come. Stay tuned for Mall Tour 2016.